And
Mm.
I remember standing in the kitchen and yelling at him one day saying, my life matters, right? But it wasn't him necessarily that I was saying that to. It was me that I was saying that to. But I didn't know how to matter to myself.
Hello, beautiful beings. Welcome to Let's Create the Revolution Together, a podcast about creating new ways to embody ourselves as human. If you're here, you're probably well aware of all the shifts that are happening on our planet. Maybe you go with the flow with those changes, or maybe you're struggling to find who you truly are. Either way, this space right here is for you. My name is Marigold Era. I'm an Ayurvedic wellness coach, a spiritual life coach, and a podcaster. I am here to guide you through this reality that we can call the Earth School. I strongly believe that we are here to create new ways to show up as individual and as collective, and that every experience that we encounter is an opportunity to grow and evolve. So grab yourself something to drink, make yourself comfortable, and let's jump right into the next episode.
Hey, you guys. As some of you may know, I'm a mother, and for the past 12 years of my life, I've been devoted to my own growth so that I can actually help my kids evolve beyond their ancestral trauma. It was always very important to me to be conscious of my own triggers so that I don't put them over my kids. Lately, I've been so curious to hear about other mothers' experience, the highs, the low, and everything in between. I think that as mothers, it is so crucial to be surrounded by other fantastic women so that we can actually support each other. So, if you're a mother, no matter what your situation is, so whether you're nesting or an empty nester, I want to invite you to a 2 hour free focus group / workshop on motherhood. It's going to be on November 27th at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it's completely free. So if you feel called to join, please reach out to me on Facebook or Instagram at Marigold Era. And I'm going to leave you to this amazing episode that we did. I hope you enjoy it.
Hello, my beautiful beings. Welcome back to Let's Create the Revolution Together. On today's episode, I'm thrilled to introduce you to a remarkable soul who has dedicated her life to helping others. Her name is Sheryl, and you can also call her the Cosmos Mystic. She is a beacon of insight, a channel of healing, a bridge between the seen and the unseen. With a heart full of compassion and a spirit attuned to the mysteries of the universe, Sheryl is a psychic medium, a tarot reader, and an astrologer. Her readings are not mere predictions, they're profound connection to the hidden dimension that shape our lives. Her words resonate deep within, offering clarity, comfort, and a glimpse into the tapestry of your own journey. So if this is something that resonates with you, I invite you to reach out to her on Instagram at Sheryl underscore the Cosmos Mystic. Her links are also in the description down below, so you can also just go ahead and click on those. So the reason why I wanted to have Sheryl on the podcast about creating revolution is because her story wasn't always one of the light path, right? So she's walked through her own shadow and she overcame the victim consciousness and now is emerging stronger and wiser. And she's living this empowered life. And so her story is a testimonial on a way to create that revolution. There are like thousands of ways, and she has one in her voice. And that's why I wanted to have her on the podcast. She's she radiates, the belief that we all possess the magic to rewrite our own stories and to embrace joy. So I hope you enjoyed this episode. Here she is, Sheryl, the Cosmos Mystic. Hey,
Hi, good
Cheryl.
morning. Thank you so much. I feel like listening to your podcast, right? The last girl, Alicia.
Yes.
Alicia, she when she said, was that me you're talking about? That's how I kind of feel, right? Like it's amazing to hear it from a different perspective. We've had the chance to talk privately about things. So hearing it from an outside perspective is very humbling, and much gratitude for that, right? Much gratitude for that. So
Thanks to you to be here.
and well, thank you for having me. Like I'm excited. I'm learning to step out of my comfort zone, right? Being on camera
Yes.
is not my favorite thing. I would rather be behind the camera in most things, right? But I'm getting more comfortable with it, and public speaking has helped. I've started public speaking. That's a trip, right? A lot of things
Yeah.
in my life are a trip now. I can always expect because this wasn't always my life, as we talked about. So so my story. Let's go back to the beginning, right? Um,
Yes.
from my childhood, I had always felt a sense of responsibility
Mm.
and this inherent kind of presence of
Mm.
just taking care of other people,
Yeah.
right? Always taking care of other people. The way that I grew up, my dad had an alcohol problem,
Mm.
and there was a lot of codependency and domestic violence in my household. So when I was 12, my mom had another baby. I'm the oldest of four girls, and we had three. And then when I was like 12 and a half, my little baby sister was born. And at that time, I used to get up in the middle of the night and take care of her sometimes. And then my parents left and went out of state and left me in charge
Hmm.
of all kids and one of their friends' kids at the age of 12 with a newborn baby. And just so I've always taken care of people. And so when I was at the place, right, I had my kids really young, really, really young. And then when I had my fourth baby, I was like 23. And I started college when she was 2.5. And I decided that I had wanted to be a nurse. So I
Hmm.
went to college to be a nurse while raising the kids. And that was hard, right, in itself.
Oh,
But
yeah.
that's what I knew how to do. I knew how to do that well, right? So fast forward, I'm working as a nurse. I started my career in labor and delivery, which felt very natural to me,
Hmm.
right? Somewhere in a past life, I was probably, a midwife or something, but it felt very natural to me to be in that environment and to be able to witness, right? The baby taking its first breath and that soul entering and
Oh,
just, right? It was amazing.
yes.
And but I had gotten hurt at work, and I had had a patient that was on drugs and a little bit difficult, and I was hurt really badly, and that was a hard thing for me.
Hmm.
Right? I'd spent money that my kids could have used to be able to do this career, right? And I didn't know who I was outside of taking care of other people. I wasn't
Hmm.
used to taking care of myself. And that injury led to kind of like a domino effect of
Hmm.
other injuries. So it was first my neck, but I didn't realize that. And they didn't realize that at the time. And so I went through different procedures and stuff like that. And it still never really took care of the things. And I really didn't care that it wasn't being corrected. All I wanted to be able to do was go back to work, go back to knowing what I knew how to do, right?
Yes.
And so the more I tried, the harder time that I had because it wasn't really the path that I was supposed to be on, but I didn't know that yet, right? So they started prescribing me medication, And it was really easy to mask everything, even the feelings that I had built up around all of that with so
Mm-hmm.
much medicine. And it had started with muscle relaxers, pain medicine,
Mm.
injections, like all different kinds of crazy things, right? Then it ended up being, I needed to have surgery. So I was in a neck brace for a year while they were trying to decide, what surgery, what's going to happen. It was my spine that needed to be fused. It started in my neck and then it went all the way down to my lower back. So I had my neck fused first, and then I tried to go back to work again, and then my back blew out, and that led to like really serious problems. Right, I had lost my bladder function. I was losing my bowel function. I was told I would never be able to use my bladder again on my own. I was like hours away from, I had a really rare thing that happened, but most of the discs that had happened, like within my neck, it went out into the spinal cord and was compressing the spinal cord. So my back, my lower back did the same thing. And when it did that, I was like hours away from being paralyzed.
Mm.
They didn't know if I'd ever walk again. It was hard to retrain all that. And all of that did the emotional aspect of all of it. I suppressed it all, right? I suppressed it all. And the more I suppressed it, the more helpless I felt, the more hopeless I felt. Um, and then I had to focus on, at first it was retraining to use my bladder again, right? So I wouldn't have to have a catheter for the rest of my life. And so I did that kind of work, but it was still a distraction from dealing with my emotions. And the more medicine I could take, the more numb I became to dealing with what was really inside
Yeah.
and not feeling adequate. The kids were still little by this time. I mean, some of them, I think my oldest son was in high school, so he had the missed opportunity probably from his point of view, right? Of driving me, and because I couldn't drive, right?
Yes.
So here's this 16-year-old boy driving my car, and it's a stick shift, and I'm like freaked out because, right? Like, I'm fragile, and he's like, "Oh my god, shut up!" What are you doing? So we would have some pretty intense conversations on the way, but it was a good time. It's still, we tried to make it as light as possible with them,
Mm.
but part of my sadness came from them having to do things that I felt I should be doing, that
Mm.
children shouldn't have to do for their parents, to care for them. And my younger daughters helped bathe me and wash my hair or sit with me when I couldn't walk or when I couldn't get out of bed and I cried a lot. For them to see their mom like that was just really hard for me, from a point where I was used to being the caretaker, and then I was in a position where I couldn't take care of myself necessarily
Mm.
unless I was on a lot of medication and being able to really start pushing myself. But that ended up doing more damage
Yeah.
because I wasn't able to feel the damage that I was doing. And then the damage to my heart space, right? Of not
Yes.
being able to address the emotions that I felt inside and
Yeah.
how inadequate I felt. And um,
Mm.
everything, right? And then I held on to it. I
Yes.
held on to it, that victim mentality. This is happening to me and I have no control over it. And I don't know how to navigate it, right? That was the hardest part. I didn't know how to navigate that emotional
Mm.
body. And carrying that, I think I emotionally bled onto my children, onto my husband, onto my family.
Mm-hmm.
And right? Because I carried it and I wore it proudly, like, I'm hurt. This happened to me. I didn't do anything. I didn't deserve this,
Right.
but instead of taking it as an opportunity to be able to say, why are you holding on to these emotions? Why do you feel so hopeless? And you know what I mean? It was almost like there was a part of me that was kind of ready to die,
Mm.
right? I couldn't be the caregiver for other people, then what use was I? Right. So I
Mm.
was like almost ready to give up, like really ready to. And I could have very easily. I had the pharmaceutical,
Yes.
advantage of being able, if that was the road that I wanted to take. And I knew that was always kind of in the back of my mind, right? Whenever
Mm.
I felt like whenever it got to be to the point where I couldn't or didn't want to,
Mm-hmm.
that was sitting there right next to my bed, right? And a lot of them,
Yes.
there was a nice choice. You know, that
Would
that
you
I
say would you say you were addicted to
um
those pharmaceutical? Like
those
was
were
there a part of yourself that was like kind of okay taking those and like
yes, absolutely. I was okay taking them because it fit my narrative at the time,
right?
right? I I'm a victim. I'm disabled now. I'm in pain. I need them.
Yeah, I
Pain.
have no other choice.
Right.
This is what I need right now. Those.
Right. And
Yeah.
I never saw at that particular time, I didn't see any other way to be able to deal with it. Right. It was real easy to be able to pop a pill or put a patch on, and I mean, we're talking an exorbitant amount of medication, right? I had extended release morphine, instant release morphine. I had Flexeril. I had Somas. I had Valium. I had um, ibuprofen. I had at one point fentanyl patches, right? With the morphine and everything else on top of it. So it is amazing to me that that I'm still here, right? With that
Yes.
much narcotics. And because I was in the healthcare industry, I was very comfortable with the whole idea of being prescribed a pill or pills, right? And
Yes.
then and the feeling legitimized by it, right?
Yes.
Oh, you're in pain, let's give you more medication. And so it became part of my identity, like you said, right? I identified very much with it because I wore that wound very proudly. And
Mm.
and I don't mean that in a way where I was proud to be in pain, but I mean it from the perspective of I wasn't afraid to show people that I was in pain, right? I let
Yes.
everybody know that I was in pain, usually by a surly demeanor or right, not being pleasant all the
Yes.
time,
It's like
you know.
complaining, like, "Oh, I hurt. Oh,
Yes,
this hurt. Oh my god,"
yes, yes. And if I didn't like some, like I mean, it was easy to be able to say, well, I can be a bitch because I feel bitchy inside. You know what I mean? It gave me a kind of a permission slip
Yes.
to have on the external the way I felt on the internal,
Mm.
right? And that kind of perpetuated through my kids going into their teenage years, um, and then my life blew up. Right, I got divorced. My sister had passed. Um, Unexpectedly, right? She unexpectedly passed from a very rare form of cancer.
Mm.
And we didn't have a lot of time to be from the time of diagnosis until the time she passed to be able to deal with that. So after that, right? I was still in the victim state. All this is happening to me. I've lost my sister now. And I couldn't understand why she had passed and I was still alive, because I was the one that was ready to die, right? I
Yes.
was the one that had started to sink so low in my own self pity
Yes.
that I couldn't understand, right, why the roles were reversed to me.
Mm-hmm.
And so then I started drinking
Mm.
for about 9 months, right? I was like really in it, really, really in it. And yeah. And so then nobody wanted to be around me, right? Nobody wanted to
Yeah.
be around me. My kids didn't want to be around me. I didn't really necessarily want to be around my grandkids because I was emotionally bleeding everywhere on
Yes.
everybody, you know.
Mm.
But then it became more of, it wasn't just because I'm hurt and I can't do the things that I used to. They had taken me off work, put me on disability, right?
Mm.
Told me that I'd probably never work again. Um, all of these things were happening and I could not get a grasp on it. I couldn't make sense of it. I couldn't understand it. And it just felt like I was in this drain and it was just sucking me down. And I didn't have tools to be able to help me navigate that time. So it just spun and spun and spun. Then my dad had passed, and that was kind of even a deeper kind of thing,
Mm.
right? And so I sunk so low into all that, Miracle. Oh, that was like probably the beginning of the dark night of my soul, right?
Yes.
Where I had just but I still couldn't figure out how to find light yet. I couldn't
Mm-hmm.
figure out how to start healing wounds because I felt like the wounds were being inflicted upon me and I didn't really have um, I didn't want them, right?
Mm.
And I didn't know how to acknowledge them. I didn't know how to navigate any of that. And the self talk that I had was probably at the worst at that time, right? The words in my head were, Sheryl, you're a stupid, ugly fucking bitch.
Mm.
And that's what I told myself. And I like, okay, saying that out loud, that's a hard thing, right? Saying those
Yes.
things out loud and to other people and sharing that self-talk that I had, right? But somehow I felt like it was all my fault.
Yes.
That somehow I had done something that must have been really awful for me to have dealt with all that. And I couldn't
Mm.
understand it. It couldn't make sense. So I embodied that victim mentality very much, you know?
Mm.
And and it still took a while. It still took a while. Then I tried to pick up the pieces, right? By saying, okay, so we got remarried. And that probably wasn't the best idea at that time because we hadn't healed yet, right?
Mm.
We were just trying to put band-aids and making things a little bit better without dealing with anything, right? Just
Yeah.
thinking, okay, we change the location of where we live, not the location of what's going on inside, right? Um,
Yes.
so we went through all that, did that. Things still weren't great. Then other things started showing up. The monster kind of got a little bit deeper, and things started showing up in my relationship that was a mirror of what I was feeling on the inside. But I didn't recognize that at the time, nor did I have the language to be able to articulate that, right? But we had started in a codependent kind of thing. I mean, it was very codependent. I was very codependent from my whole life, but I didn't know that
Mm.
because of the way I'd grown up and the things that I had seen, and you know what I mean, just like all those kind of things. And then um, when sort of domestic violent issues started showing up in my marriage, that was probably a big thing. And
Mm.
I remember standing in the kitchen and yelling at him one day saying, my life matters, right? But it wasn't him necessarily that I was saying that to. It was me that I was saying that to. I didn't know how to matter to myself, right? So fast forward a couple more years, this was probably like 2016. I'm still on the medicine. I'm still going for injections in my back. I'm still trying to figure out my life, but my home life was really starting to fall apart.
Mm.
And the interaction between me and him, I didn't like myself. I couldn't like him. And he didn't like me, right? I wasn't necessarily a nice person. Um, I mean, I was kind enough to other people, you know what I mean? And if you would have asked me then, I would have said, oh, yeah, I'm a great person. But no, I really wasn't, because I wasn't great to myself. You know what I mean? I didn't care about myself. So I didn't really care about other people.
Mm-hmm.
In the blunt truth of it, that's really what it boils down to, right?
Yes.
So things had gotten to a point where we could not stop hurting each other.
Mm.
And whether it was through words or deeds or whatever, and it was always kind of the back and forth, right? The tit for tat. And then one day I really started asking the universe to see him clearly, right? Because I couldn't see clearly. I couldn't see
Mm.
anything clearly. And that was like probably one of the most profound things, because one night we were sitting there watching TV and he changed in front of me. I saw him shift shape in front of me, right? I saw his facial hair grow. I saw his nails grow. I saw the smirk on his smile. And it freaked me out, dude. I thought, fuck, I just saw his demon, right? And it did. It scared me. I was like, okay, I need to stop asking, first of all, because I didn't know how to deal with that, right? I didn't know what I had seen. I didn't, and then I froze because I didn't know what to do with that information. So I froze. And then 3 days later was probably one of the deepest wounds that I had endured in our relationship. And at that point, that was where the conjunction hit. And
Mm.
I knew I was at a crossroad, right? Where I had to make a choice. I could have chose destruction, or I could chose creation. And to articulate those two choices that way at that time, no, I was either going to kill him and kill myself, or I went to a domestic violence shelter and started to feel safe finally, right? Because I didn't feel safe in my own body.
Yeah.
I didn't trust myself to take care of myself. I didn't know how to advocate for myself. Right? I mean, like all of that victim mentality stuff that came along with it. And waiting for somebody to come to either give you the magical pill, right? That doesn't
Yes.
exist. There is no magical pill. Or save you, right? I'll tell
Yes.
you the secret. And I had to learn to save myself. So I was at the shelter, and at first I was just grateful to be alive, right? But that's how gratitude started.
Mm.
And I started practicing gratitude on a daily basis. They gave us a worksheet, right? That was 30 days of gratitude.
Mm.
And so I did it. I took everything to heart. I went to all of the classes. I stayed and I did the work. Well, that was me, the beginning of me starting the work, right? But
Yes.
I needed to have a guide to help me be able to say, there is a way.
Yes.
We're going to throw you the lifeline, but you're going to have to grab it and paddle your ass, and I was like, what? Like, I have to work? You know what I mean? You know, right? Like, really. And so I did. And then after I got out of the shelter, my oldest son and his wife and my youngest daughter and her husband at the time had found a place for me to live and it was an old folks home. Like, and I know that I'm older than some of your guests on there, and that's fine, right? But I mean, it was like really retirement. But I needed that. I still needed to be able to heal. I knew when I was at the shelter that I needed to stop taking the medicine. I knew that that it was time, and I knew that I could do it safely with other people's help, right? But that's one of the problems that I had, was asking for help. I didn't know how to ask for help because I thought I needed to do everything on my own, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of a little too much for me at that time, right?
Yes.
And that was hard, right? So I had left the shelter by that time, and barely, right? Like just left it, and was staying at my youngest daughter's house. And even though I had started decreasing 2 months prior, after having that much medication for so long, I mean, we're talking, this is a 16-year span,
Yes.
time span, it still hit your body. And I didn't expect that.
Mm.
So the night that I was sleeping on her couch and I start really having withdrawal symptoms, right? Like my body is really purging. It's really starting, I'm vomiting. I've got diarrhea and
Oh my
it's just
God.
everywhere. She's like, Mom, I love you, but I'm taking your ass to a motel. I said, you know what? No problem. Like, I get it. So I went there, right? And I ended up, it was hard. That was probably, I think, about 10 days of really hard um, things, right? For about 4 days, I think I lived in the bathtub. And
Oh my God.
oh yeah, no,
Like
it's bad. Like you
that's
shit
where
yourself.
you see, yeah, that's where you see like this is actual drugs. Like you, like in
Yeah,
the
it's
movies
killing
where
you.
you see, yes, where you see
Yeah,
like Aryan people, like they're just like
yeah,
stopping and they're just like purging and purging, and it's just like, they're all over the place, and it feels like you went through something like that. So I don't
yes.
know, it's just like
It
that.
did. Metaphorically, that was me crawling my way through hell, right? Because
Yes.
it is. It's a hell. Like your body, it only takes 5 days. Like they don't tell you that. I think that people are more aware now of how fast our body does adapt to things. So now it only takes 5 days of taking a substance before your body actually starts to integrate with that, right? And it starts relying on that. So it wasn't so much like a mental addiction, other than I need the medicine to be able to function, to be able to
Yeah.
walk and push myself hard enough and be able to clean and do the things that I was still trying to do as an adult and as a parent. But then to be able to know that when your body gets to that point where it's just like, it's what dope sick, right? That's what the title
Yeah.
dope sick means. um but I didn't know any of that at that time, right? Like your body becomes used to it, and the pain of not having it makes it very tempting to be able to say it's so easy to take a pill to make this go away, which is
Yeah.
why I knew I had to not do it, right?
Yeah.
Um, but that was fucking hard. That was
Yeah.
hard to
So
be in that.
how did you do it? Like how
How did
did
I
you
do it? I
did you
sat in that
yeah,
motel room,
right?
right? I sat in that motel room. I sat in the bathtub for about 4 days, just in the water, right? Let the water go out every time it would either come out one way or another. Rinse off. My daughter would bring me food, but it had to be food I had to eat like every 2 hours. I had to take care of myself differently. And I think
Mm,
that's when I was able to start listening, really listening to my body, right? It's
mm,
not like the pain went away, but that's where I started talking to myself differently and telling myself it's okay. It's okay that you feel this. It's going to be okay. You're going to live through this. You're going to make it. You're going to survive this. And I started thinking in terms of hours instead of days, right?
mm.
2 hours. You can make it 2 hours. You can, you can do this. And then then I started sleeping more soundly as the days went by. It still took, and I lost, and I went down to probably about 95 pounds during that time. And that made it harder for my body to be able to have any, I had no muscle at all.
Yes.
Right. So walking was really hard.
Mm.
I was in a cane. I had been previously, right? I had been in wheelchairs off and on. At one point, right about the time my sister had passed, so 2009, I was in a hospital bed for a year in my bedroom because I couldn't walk at all. My spine was so weak. And so I had some aids to be able to, right? I had back braces, I had canes, I had things that I could utilize to help me during that process. But this was a different kind of process because
Yeah.
I wasn't relying on artificial medication anymore. I had to be the medication for me to be able to soothe myself and get past the, oh my God, this sucks and I don't want it anymore. And how can I make it go away? Instead of having that mindset where I was in a place where I just want to escape it and be able to be like my old self again.
Mm.
I knew that this was an opportunity. I knew that at that time, right? This was an opportunity for me to be better. Now, I didn't feel better, and I certainly didn't look better because I looked like a skeleton and I looked like death. But I'll be honest, I did. I looked like death. It was a place for me to be able to. It was like rewriting my story all over again, and that was the chance for me to be able to change my narrative. And
Mm.
instead of Sheryl, you stupid fucking ugly bitch, it was Sheryl, maybe there is more. Maybe
Mm.
there is a different way, right? Maybe there is a different way. And so after I got out of the motel, like I said, I was there for probably about 2 weeks. Then I went to the retirement home, and I'm on the third floor of this retirement place, and they had a cafeteria, and there was an elevators because I still couldn't walk stairs and stuff like that
Yes.
yet, right? And so my kids made sure that the cafeteria, they served 2 meals a day, so I would be fed and be able to build back up my strength and take time. They had people coming into your apartment to help you clean, and the things that I was having a really hard time with. So I was very blessed in that sense because at that time I got to spend 12 to 14 hours a day meditating and learning and growing, right? That's where I really started dedicating myself to myself.
Yeah, it was
And I
like
had
a
never done
retreat
that before.
center. Yeah.
Yes.
Like
And I fucking loved it, dude. I loved it, right? Like I did. I loved it. It was great to me. I got to go to crochet classes and all kinds of stuff. But
yeah.
the other people there, they were so funny. They were like, "Why are you here?" It's like they're like, "You're not quite old enough yet." And I think I was still at that time I was like 50, either 50 or 52. I think I was 52, 51, turning 52. But they had taken me because of the disability and because of all those things, right? So I
Mhm.
wasn't even 55 yet. And I'm still trying, to figure out where I belong with all these people, but they were really great, and I got to learn a lot from sitting at tables and eating with them and learning their life lessons and how they overcame some of the things, right? And then also being able to listen to some of the regrets that they had had
Mm.
was a very interesting thing to me because I don't think that I had ever had that opportunity to before, other than necessarily my dad, right? Being
Yeah.
able to talk about some of the regrets. And if we could go back, what would we change? Now, knowing what I know now, if I could go back, I wouldn't necessarily change anything, because everything has brought me to the place that I'm at for me to be able to learn who I truly was and the gifts that I possess and
Yeah.
carry, right? But didn't always know. I didn't know that listening to my body and taking care of myself in a different way was really cultivating my intuition. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I didn't understand any of that. I didn't have that awareness, that I could intuitively listen to my body and have foresight versus having hindsight, right?
Yeah.
Um, Maybe I shouldn't pick up that 50-pound box because, I might not be able to be okay with that for a while. You know what I mean? But having foresight versus hindsight is something that helped. And I started cultivating that, right? Based on experiences, knowing, well, no, it's not going to make sense to be able to overwork yourself to the point of death
Mm.
because you don't have any medication to numb the pain, right? Not just the physical pain, but the emotional pain that comes with it after you've pushed yourself too hard or done something that you shouldn't have done. And we
Yeah.
all have that, right? We all have that in some way. Just mine was in a very physical way. Okay, so I believed in miracles and I knew, but I didn't know for sure yet, right? I
Yes.
still had a little bit more.
Yeah, you knew. Yeah, you knew, but you didn't have the proof yet.
Yes, yes. Or the complete abilities, um, in myself, right? Because I still
Right?
didn't trust myself yet. I still didn't trust my intuition yet. That came when I, well, mostly when I was in the apartment with the old people, right?
Mm.
Where I could sit and I started learning about Solfeggio frequencies and sound
Mm.
healing and, more guided meditations. That's when I really started. So I had, seen Dr. Joe Dispenza, and I'm going to butcher his name. I'm not that great with phonetics in this lifetime, apparently, right? But
Dispenza. Joe
yes,
Dispenza.
and so I had seen it on YouTube, right? Um, Rewire your brain in 21 days. And I'm thinking, well, what the fuck else am I doing for 21 days anyway? So I might as well try it. So I started doing some guided meditation. I would do it out there on that third floor, where the great thing about those kind of residential homes is that all the old people go to bed at 8 o'clock at night, right? So I had the whole upstairs with the sky and being able to sit underneath the stars all to myself. And I loved that, right? I loved that. Nobody being like, okay, this, lady's weird. Like, I don't know what she's doing, but, so I would sit out there and light incense or, have some kind of essential oil and then listen to the guided meditation. And I would do it at least once, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day,
Hmm.
but every night for sure. And then after like the first week, Miracle, something inside of me opened up that had never really opened up before. And that was the amazing part. One, that I was even capable of being able to be in a place where something could open up that profoundly. But that mirror in the sky, something about saying those things and talking to myself in a whole new way opened up, and I could start to feel this inner joy, right? This
Mm.
inner joy. And I remember my daughter came to pick me up, and I was hanging out at her house for a little bit, and she was like, "Mom, you were so happy. It is fucking annoying. Can you stop and just be a little cynical with me right now?" And I was like, I don't think I can, but why if it's being that annoying? Like, I didn't realize, right? But it was like all of a sudden I could see things differently. I could see the beauty in the earth instead of the pain and the suffering in the
Yes.
earth, right? It didn't mean that it didn't still exist, but my perception had shifted.
Yeah.
And that was the gateway.
Yeah.
And after that, I couldn't stop learning, right? My mind had opened up. My crown chakra, right? I mean, I didn't know it was my crown chakra at that time necessarily, but you know what I mean? My mind, it took me out of this very limiting belief. And all of a
Mm.
sudden, the creator became so vast to me.
Yes.
And there was so much out there that I wanted to experience. I wanted to know. I started um, learning about Reiki. I started really diving into Eastern medicine
Mm-hmm.
and more Eastern philosophies, and then applying that to Western belief systems, right? And I could see what resonated as truth for me
Yeah.
all around. And that really started opening up the door. And that's when I started studying astrology, not because I necessarily wanted to study astrology, but because I wanted to know tarot deeper.
Yeah.
And I think there was something in the back of my mind because my dad had always taught me, right? Two things. One, don't play with Ouija boards. And then, right? Like, I don't even know where that came from, but okay. And then, not to study astrology. And I was like at a place, right, where I could start to talk to my dad from beyond the veil,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I'm trying to, and I'm like, I really am trying to figure this out. Why did he tell me that? What what did he know about it that I shouldn't know? And why would he, you know what I mean? So when I started studying astrology, I started with, I think, the mindset of, well, there's got to be a reason that it's not true for my dad to tell me that, right?
Mm.
And when I started really seriously studying it, I found out it was true. And I was like, okay, fuck you, dad. Like, I don't know why. This could have made my life maybe a little bit easier had I had a little bit more foresight growing
Mm.
up and going through some of the hard challenges that I had gone through, had I had another tool.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So then it was like, oh my God, there's all this stuff out there that I was never told or was taught to be afraid of. And so that led to other things. But the beauty part of astrology that really started like kind of resonating and touching my soul was that everything that I had been through in my lifetime, one, could show up. I could see
Mm-hmm.
it, right? By different transits and things like that. I could see it, but it also helped confirm what my soul knew, that there is a compassionate part of me that knows that life does not end with the death of the physical body. So,
Mm.
being a nurse, right? We were talking about that, thinking that that was the only avenue to healing. Um, I had ended my career with being a hospice nurse. So I got to start it with seeing and witnessing life being brought into the world.
Yeah.
And I finished it with being, right? That is such an honored place to be in, to sit and hold the hand of somebody as they pass.
Yeah.
And 9 times out of 10, they see something. And I've seen it, right? I've seen angels come that help them passed on loved ones that come. But even I'm talking patients that have been in comas will wake up and raise their arms as their loved ones, their spirit guides, angels are coming to help escort
Mm.
them as they transition. And so I always believe, right? I'm getting chills. I
Me
always
too.
believed, right? I
Yes.
always believed in that. I just didn't realize being a medium was part of that.
Hmm.
and being able to step into my mediumship. So I started after I went through Deborah Silverman's applied astrology school. Then I went to Hay House. I found Hay House, right? Because I needed, well, I found Louise Hay while I was healing from the medication and stuff.
Hmm.
So it's been 4.5 years, and I still take over the counter ibuprofen, right? Not every day, but I do take it. But I have to listen to my body and pay attention to my body a lot better than I ever did before. I don't take my body for granted. I don't push it
Yeah.
harder than it needs to be pushed. I don't, if I listen to it, if I need to rest, I'm okay with resting. I'm okay with that. If I need to take a day off, if I, you know what I mean? I absolutely give myself permission to do all that, right? Um, which is something I never did before. I would feel guilty, and then that lowers our vibration, right? Guilt and shame and things like that. So I was like, okay, so instead of like shifting all of that, it became the focus of my life, dedicating my life to myself, right? But that helped somehow be able to help others. And that started with my family, right? Not all, because not all necessarily subscribe to my way of belief, and that's okay. They've
Yeah.
got their journey, and things will happen for them too. But to be able to see it from an outside perspective where I can observe the events that happened and be honored to witness them instead of always emotionally reacting to it,
Yeah.
right? Was a
Yes.
huge game shifter. Huge game shifter. And that's when I started realizing, you know what? I believe in this shit because I've experienced it. Not because somebody told me to believe in it, because for me, it's absolutely real, right? There's
Yeah.
miracles and magic everywhere, all around us. We just have to be willing to be open to
Yeah.
even seeing it. And then when we start really becoming dedicated, because usually if you live long enough, there is a point where the dark night of the soul will come at some point and say, is that really how you want to live? Do you really want to be stuck in the misery? Or do you want to feel what it's like to pull yourself out of that hell, right? That I created. I created it for myself, right?
Yes.
Pretty much by myself because of my thoughts and my beliefs, and being stuck in that repetitive loop of I'm not worth anything. I,
Yeah.
I'm I'm useless. I'm just taking up space on this planet, right?
Mm.
To feeling empowered and understanding what true empowerment is. It's not an external thing, it's an internal thing. I don't need to go around and say to people, oh, look at me. It's more of me just being able to be me now,
Yes.
and authentically me. The authentic me believes in magic, believes in tarot, believes in angels and spirit guides, and I'm okay with having conversations with beings that are on the other side just as much as I have conversations with people that are still embodied in a human body, right? But it took a long time for me to be able to be okay with that and not
Yeah.
feel judged by it, or to be able to shed those limiting beliefs that I was taught that it was wrong
Yeah.
or evil or not of God, whatever, right?
Yes.
All of that was a big part of all of the healing work that I had started doing, and just allowing myself to really be and sit with that for a little bit. Each new thing, right? Each new
Yes.
thing that would come across and be like, oh my God, this resonates so strongly. And then I would sit there and cry, and healing tears, though, not sad tears anymore, but healing tears, and saying, you know what, this is profound. This is
Mm.
big. The shift that I've made in my life if for no other reason, because at this point my children were grown, right? Um, than for my grandkids to be able to see that we have a choice of
Yeah.
what roles that we take on in this lifetime. And that's, I think, the most empowering thing, right? The greatest gift to me, as I see it, is free will.
Hmm.
And that's because there's always a choice. Even when we don't choose, we're still choosing because we're choosing not to choose, right? So
Yes.
everything is really a choice. It just really kind of matters, how are we getting by and how well do we want to live?
Hmm.
I want to live to the best of my ability. And that's the example that I want to leave for my grandchildren, right?
Yeah.
That they can do and be anything that they really want. It takes work, it takes dedication, it takes
Yes.
effort. It's not easy. There is no magic pill. And, you know, that journey, learning that in itself is beauty,
Yes.
right?
Yes. I love
That's,
it.
yeah, that's the
Yeah, it's
legacy that I
amazing.
want to leave. Everything else, the people now that I attract as clients, that's icing, right? But the cake is that I fucking did it. And if I can do it, right? If I can do it, anybody can do it, because
Yes.
I was not raised this way. I wasn't, I had to find the resources. Um, and then once I really started, the universe just kept bringing more and more and more. And my
Yeah.
learning just kind of expanded and it grew so rapidly and so fast. And I think being a good teacher is part of that, is being a good student, you know?
Yes.
So I had to really be dedicated to my learning and my growing before I could ever sit before somebody and feel confident in the advice that I was giving.
Mm-hmm.
You know what
Yeah,
I
I
mean? I
love
would
that.
never sit in front of somebody and say, oh, I can see the victim mentality. And how do we switch that? If I wasn't in a place where felt comfortable in giving resources and advice, because that wouldn't be right to me. You know what I mean? I would feel like if I was still trapped in that kind of victim mentality, and I can see it even still when I'm still in it, right?
Well,
Um,
yeah.
you went
It
through,
probably shows up in your body as well, like
yes,
pretty
I
quickly,
will feel
right?
it.
Because, like,
Yes.
for me, the victim consciousness is always showing up in my perception, is always showing up in the body. So when you feel something, you're getting sick, whatever, it's like,
Hmm.
it's just like somebody that's knocking at your door telling you, you guys, hey, just like refocus,
Pay
come
attention.
back,
Right.
just come back.
Right.
Maybe you're not like taking straight right now, maybe you're just like self-pitying or like something like that, and then instead of just like spiraling down that drain, right, you're just like, oh, my body is telling me something, let's stop right there and
Hmm.
just like reevaluate what's going on, how am I like showing up, how am I putting myself forward.
Right. Right. Like this whole new thing. So I just, Marigold knows, but I'll tell. Um, the little blurb of skin cancer that I've had to deal with this last month and a half. I just had surgery for it like 2 weeks ago. It's more about, right, because Pluto's retrograding in Capricorn, and if you understood my transits, the first time that I really started blowing my life up, when I started drinking and was a drunk slut for a little while, and then had the skin cancer and stuff, that Pluto was transiting my sun, because my ego needed to be torn down
Yes.
before I could really start to come, you know what I mean? But anyway, um, so with Pluto retrograding and this little blip shows up, this time it was different. right? I didn't go into that. It was like, okay, so it's a little touch of skin cancer, and I can deal with that in a way where I'm not emotionally reactive.
Mhm.
I'm the only thing that I told them that I really wanted was to understand if they were going to cut a hole in my nose, was it one going to look like I was trying to gauge it, and two, where was the plastic surgeon so that they could fill it, right? And how does that all work? Because nobody had talked to me until the day that they go to cut it. It's like, dude, you're not
Mhm.
cutting my face unless I understand what is going on here. You know what I mean? Like, you're not doing this. Like, I will run, and this, so I'm in there. Oh my God, Marigold. So I'm in there, I'm in this room with them, right? And they're all coming in, and I'm starting to get nervous, but I had my like 432 frequency, um, healing, positive, music that I needed to help. And
Mhm.
then I asked the angels to come in, and for the surgeon to have the guidance that he needs to have, and the steady hand and all that, right? And all of a sudden, right before they get ready to start, the whole room switches, the energy shifts, and they notice the music playing from my phone, right? And the surgeon goes, wow, the knots in my neck just lifted and everything. I said, good, that means the angels are doing what I asked them to do. And he looks at me like, all right, this lady's a little bit, but I knew by him saying that, right? That you don't want somebody cutting into your face when they've got knots in their neck and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, I don't need that little muscle spasm to jerk while you're cutting my face, dude. Right. So I knew that he was saying, and I could feel the energy shift in the room, and everybody had commented. And then afterwards, that was still, a topic, a little bit of topic of a conversation about what it is to be to really understand healing at an
Mhm.
emotional level first, when our thoughts and our emotions meet the actions that we want to co-create. That's
Yes.
conscious manifestation, right? Because we're always manifesting whether we realize it or not. I was
Mhm.
just attached to manifesting misery because that's what I was living in, right?
Yes.
That's what I was feeling. That's what my thoughts were. So that's what the reality was. When I started shifting that, and it all started with gratitude, right? It all started with gratitude. That's where it all started. Um, and then being dedicated to myself. I'm probably repeating, and I apologize for that. But
No, that's okay. I mean, I love the story you're telling because, um, as you said a little earlier, you're older than my first
mhm,
guest,
mhm,
and that's also one of the reason I wanted to have you on this podcast because I want to showcase that it doesn't matter how old you are. You can be like freaking 5 year old. Like I was 6 when
mhm,
all that kind of thing happened to me, and you were like more in your like 40, 50. It doesn't matter. Like I have people that's gonna come in, they're gonna come in my podcast and they're even older. It doesn't matter, and that's
yeah,
what I love about it. It's we're all different, we all have something to bring to the table,
yes,
and the way you're telling your story is gonna speak to a kind of people, and
mhm,
the way Alicia told her story
right,
will bring other kind of people, and that's how we create that revolution, by being
absolutely,
authentic and like bringing more people. Like we're all saying the same thing in different ways.
right. Because the way I say it might is going to resonate with some people, but not everyone, right? And that's
Exactly.
okay. That's
Yes.
okay, right?
Yes.
I even if it just touches one person and inspires one person to be able to find the inner strength within them to just make that first shift, right? That
Yeah.
first shift, that's the powerful shift. Everything else doesn't mean it's always easy, right? Doesn't mean it's always easy,
No.
but everything else will start to align. But it's having the strength and the courage to make that first shift, to take a chance on yourself in a different way.
Yeah.
But things can be different, right? It's finding the resources, finding the tools, finding the inspiration, finding the teachers, finding the leaders, finding the people that align with that, so that we can grow. Because when I'm helping someone else through their stuff, I'm still learning and growing through that as
Yeah.
well. And that's a
Yeah,
beautiful
same.
thing,
Yes, it's the
right?
same for
Right?
me.
Isn't that
Yes.
so
We're
beautiful?
always, yeah, the minute we open up, I feel like we're like the downloads are just gonna come in,
Yes.
and they're gonna
Yes.
come at the right time, and we're always evolving. And I feel like it's it's important to know that, because you can get overwhelmed when it first start, especially
Yes.
right now where we can see all kinds of people already like living their aligned life, and then you're like, holy crap, I'm not living that life, shit,
Right.
what, like I need to be like there, and
Yeah.
then I'm just like right here, and you can feel pressure, but you just got to be keeping being open,
Yes.
because everything you need to know is going to come. And I love your journey, because it is long, it is a long journey. You've been
Yes.
through so much, and like little step by little step,
Hmm.
the knowledge is coming on, and then you're there right now. And I would love to see pictures of yourself, like from before, like how you looked
Oh, okay,
physically,
that's good.
and how you
Okay.
look right now, because you look magnificent. Like
Oh,
when I
you're so
saw you
thank
first
you.
today, I was like, girl, yes, you look good. And I would love to see that old Cheryl that must
Okay.
have looked, you know not that you
Okay.
weren't
That wore
beautiful,
it,
you were telling yourself you were
right?
an
Yeah, you
ugly,
could see it. You could
stupid
see the pain on
bitch.
my face.
Right?
And I took it everywhere I went, right? I took
Yes,
it
that's your
everywhere
makeup.
I went. And I, like I said, I wore it proudly, right? I was
Yes.
not ashamed of the pain, because the pain gave me the reason to escape from my own emotions, my own thoughts, my own reality, by taking the pills and, right, becoming the patient sort of, instead of the caregiver, because I wasn't caring for myself
Yeah.
in the way that was nurturing to me.
Yes.
I was hurting myself, even though I was still doing it in the ramifications of, right, the legal way. They were
Yeah.
prescribed, but still, it
Yeah,
was
it's the
still
same thing.
something.
It's
Hmm.
coming from the same, like, I don't have power, and so
Right.
I give my power to something else, whether it's
Something
like,
else.
yes, whether
Mhm.
it's like codependency or alcoholism or like pharmaceutical or freaking weed, or like, it doesn't matter what
Right.
you're
It doesn't
giving your
matter.
power to. and
Right.
and like you just have to be aware that you're actually doing that in the
Yes.
moment. It doesn't
Right.
matter,
Mhm.
to what you're giving your power to.
Right. And it also helps me, like, have compassion, right? Because there's still things that currently that I, you know, will work on a little bit at a time, right? Old habits that I've carried over, soda, coffee,
Yeah. Yeah.
cigarettes,
Yeah.
um, right? That I still work on, and that's okay, right? Having
Yes.
compassion for that, because I know that I have the power, and I know that I have the choice. And that's the difference, right? Where before I didn't feel powerful, I didn't recognize that. I felt very bound and
Yes.
chained to,
Yes.
right, what somebody else was telling me that
Yeah.
I needed to be doing. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, seriously, the pain industry, that is when you have a patient who has legitimate pain, right, that they can document because they have, MRIs and all that kind of stuff, then they start pushing you into programs and pushing
Mm.
you into injections and this and that and everything else. It became like I was their dollar signs, right?
Yes.
For them to be able to
And
bill
they kind of
insurance.
have the
Yes.
authority as well, like
Yes.
it's, yeah.
Yeah.
We
And
can
so that
sometimes
whole thing,
feel very like disempowered in the
yes,
medical system, and thinking
it
that we
was. It
don't
was
know.
very
We
disempowering for me. Even as a nurse, I didn't know how to
Yeah,
advocate for myself.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
that's
I didn't.
yeah, that's the
I
amazing
absolutely
part.
didn't. Right? Yeah.
Because even,
It's like,
even as a nurse,
oh,
I mean, you were working into
right.
that system,
Into
right?
that thing. And I will tell you that um, being a patient on the patient end, right? I had nurses
Hmm.
that, one in particular, when I was in the hospital for another procedure, and um, I had surgery on, I don't know, I can't remember, but I was in the hospital, and after it was like a 3-day thing, my hysterectomy,
Hmm.
and um, because of the medication that I was taking, right, that I was prescribed, I had asked for my medicine after surgery. I had gotten one dose. The next time when I hit the button again, they came in and said, no, it's too soon. You have to wait until tomorrow morning. And my husband was there, right? So he was like, oh, okay. Maybe I wasn't there when they gave it to her. I don't really know what's happening. But he stayed with me. So he
Hmm.
was aware that during the night, nobody had come in. So in the morning, when the new nurse had come in, um, I had asked her, and she came back and said, well, no, you can't have any. They just brought it to you half an hour ago. And my husband said, no, they did not. Nobody has been in this room. So then I'm on the phone with the director of nursing saying, okay, so I know this is a problem, and I know she was taking my pills because they can do, right, they do that, and it's hard to be in that position, but to
Hmm.
be in that position where I can say, I'm calling bullshit, because that's a problem.
Hmm.
And it's a problem in this industry to be used so much, right, as oh, we're gonna, we're gonna sign you up for all these procedures that, one, I probably didn't need, because insurance wise I fell into that category, so they can bill for it. And
Hmm.
then to have, right, to be in a place where you're supposed to be getting healing and they're supposed to be caring for you, and having somebody steal your medication on top of that is a whole different thing. So that's when I think the awareness really kind of started, that, you know what, no, I don't want to do this anymore. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? It attracts the wrong people. It makes, like, I felt very much even more of a victim
Hmm.
because of that, people wanting what you had but not having a reason for them to be prescribed it, right? So
Yes. And
healing, and it's
it's
just,
like
yeah.
when you're in that mentality of like the victim consciousness, it's so disempowering, and you're always like attracting more
Hmm.
of those kind of experience that keeps you in that kind of loop. and
Yes.
and we just need to that one experience, like you said, that one first shift to just like open yourself up, and just look at the world a different way, and
Right.
realizing how powerful you are, whether it's like in that victim consciousness or in empowering yourself. You're powerful both way. It's just a
Yes.
matter of your choice.
I
Like if you
love that.
choose, yeah, so if you choose
Exactly.
the victim consciousness, you're going to be
Exactly.
freaking powerful, and you're going to attract all kinds of
All
bullshit
kinds of, yes, I
to
agree.
just prove
Thousand,
to yourself that you are a victim. And if you
right.
think you're powerful and you're in control of your life, you're going to attract all kinds of experiences and people that are going to show to you that you're amazing, powerful. you got it all, like, not figure it out, but you're like, you're doing it right,
Right.
like you're not
Right.
that victim, you're like that warrior now, you're like, you can take you can take it on, like it's all right, you don't have to just always identify with this, you can also just like not choose it.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. Oh, I love that you said that, right? We cannot choose it. We can choose to not choose that belief about ourselves anymore. And
Yeah,
that's what's so right. Shifting that narrative, that story that we tell ourselves that we're stuck and that there's nothing we can do about it. It
yeah,
just takes that one tiny shift to be able to start the momentum of inspiration and passion in a new direction. And
yeah,
that's right? That's the embodiment of wanting to start walking in sovereignty,
yes,
in our own empowerment, in our authenticity that says, you know what, I don't have to buy into someone else's narrative of who I am and take that on as an identity for myself any longer. I can shed all of that and underneath all those layers find out who the real me is. And for me, it took me over 50 fucking years to be able to do it, right?
yes,
So my goal is just to be able to help people on their journey a little sooner and be able to see the magic within them, right? Their
yes,
own divinity, their own sovereignty, and where they feel stuck and joyless in areas of our life, because we all have them, right? We all have
yes,
areas where we feel a little bit more stuck than in other areas. To be able to start releasing some of that so that it can all rise up and feel more incongruent with their mind, their heart, and their actions as they take those inspirational steps forward and start consciously co creating is a beautiful thing to be able to see, and a
yes.
very honored place for me to be able to be in the position. Like, who would have thought that me, that I, right, that I can help guide other people to help find it, right? Just by saying, you know what, these are some of the tools that I've utilized. This is some of the things that I've come across. These are some of the great teachers that I've been able to learn from and grow with. And you know what I mean? Just to be able to guide, there's so many things. That's why the work you're doing is so important. And I just want to say thank you so much for the
Oh, thank
opportunity
you.
to be able to talk to you. I could talk about this stuff all day long, but right, like now I am such a spiritual nerd that pretty much right. I like I do. I read about it. You know, I listen to it on the music is such a big part of me.
Hmm.
Just all, you know, all of it, all, and to be able to really share. So I will tell you, oh my gosh, last weekend I did my first group mediumship reading, and there this year is a lot of firsts, right? Really stepping out of the comfort zone and stretching, but it was such a beautiful thing, Miracle.
That's
Such
amazing.
a beautiful thing to be able to do, and I'm really proud of myself for being able to do that. So right, so I have a little bit of compassion for myself when I'm not always on camera, you know. There's a lot of other things going on that I am doing and stepping out into and really um embracing for myself, but also
Hmm.
to help inspire, you know, other people, that
Yes,
whatever gifts and talents that you have, right, to not let that fear hold you back into a
yes.
place where you feel stuck is a beautiful thing. And
Yeah,
uh
we all, it's always like a matter of coming back to where is your fear, and to be
right,
courageous is not to not have that fear, but to just like be there for that fear and just like keep on going. And as you keep on going, that's where like you keep opening up to all kinds of like wonderful stuff that you would not imagine, that is all like you cannot even imagine what's going to be on the other side of that door, because
right,
you're that when you're in that fear state of mind, you're like, I feel like yeah, you're just stuck in there, and you cannot just open up. And then when you do that first shift, and stuff just start to, I don't know, unravel, and it's just so
Mhm.
beautiful.
Right? Right.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you. Your
Thank you for
story is
having me.
amazing.
I am
And as I
so
said in the
honored.
beginning, like, you can, like, people can reach out to you because you're wonderful, and I feel like you can help so many people with your story and with your gift.
Thank you. Thank you. You are amazing, sweetheart. Such a bright light. And I just want to tell you how honored I am to
Hmm.
know you and to be able to share this with you, right?
Oh, thank you.
You're doing so great. Like, keep going.
Amazing.
Keep
All right.
going.
I will.
Good.
It was such a joy talking with Cheryl this week, and I just wanted to tell you guys some of my takeaways from this episode. So, first one, so important. Don't ever suppress your emotion. This is very important in life for everyone. The second one would be to learn how to feel safe in your own body. Like, this is also so important, so that you can actually learn to trust yourself, right? So you gotta learn how to feel safe within yourself. Another takeaway that I have for this episode is to learn how to listen to our own body and to take care of ourselves, and by doing this, we can actually cultivate our intuition, which is a pillar in our lives. When we can actually trust our own intuition, like, life gets so much easier. And another one that is so cool is the power of meditation, because as you can hear in Cheryl's story and in so many other stories as well, when we start meditating, the shift in our perspective is actually healing ourselves, and we have so much power, and we don't really understand how we have that much power. And as much power as we have to destroy ourselves, we have the same amount of power to heal ourselves. And so the meditation, it's a very perfect tool to achieve that. And so these are my takeaway from this week's podcast. So I hope you enjoyed it, and don't forget to join if you're a mother and you want to join that workshop that I'm doing on November 27th. Please reach out to me. I'll be gladly answering all your questions. I can't wait to see you there, and see you in the next episode. Ciao.